On September 6, 1522, the Victoria sailed into harbor in southern Spain. The battered vessel and its 18 sailors were all that remained, of a fleet had departed 3 years before. Yet her voyage was considered a success, for the Victoria had achieved something unprecedented, circumnavigation of the globe, but the story really begins in 1494. 2 years after Columbus' voyage on behalf of Spain, Columbus' discovery prompted the Catholic Spanish rulers to turn the Pope to preempt any claims by Portugal to the new lands. The Pope resolved by drawing an imaginary line on the world map. Spain had the right to claim the territories at the west of the divide, and Portugal to the east Spain. The two major seafaring superpowers at the time agreed to these terms in what came to be called the Treaty of Tordesillas. At the time, these nations had their eyes on the same prize: trade routes to the Spice Islands in today's Indonesia, spices found there, which were used as seasonings, and preservative and aphrodisiacs, were worth many times their weight in gold.
But because of Portugal's control over eastern sea routes, Spain's inviable option was to sail west, so when a Portuguese defector named Ferdinand Magellan claimed that a westward route to this Spice Island existed, King Charles I made him captain of Spanish Armada and gave him all the resources he would need along with a share in Voyage's profits. He granted Magellan 5 ships and about 260 men. The crew included a young slave named Enrique, captured by Magellan on a previous journey to Malacca, and Antonio Figapetta, a Venetian nobleman seeking adventure. On September 20, 1519, the fleet weighed anchor and headed southwest. After making landfall in what is now Brazil, it proceeded along the coast, exploring any waterway leading inland. They were looking for the fabled passage linking east and west as the weather worsened. The Spaniards' resentment at having a Portuguese captain escalated. A full-blown mutiny soon erupted, which Magellan crushed with unspeakable cruelty, but his problem were only just begin. During a reconnaissance mission, the Santiago was wrecked by a storm. Then, while exploring a narrow waterway, the captain of the San Antonio took the first opportunity to slip away and sail back home. Magellan pressed forward, and on October 21, he started exploring a navigable seaway. 27 preceding day later, the three remaining ships emerged from what we now call the Strait of Magellan.
To the Mar Pacifico, the fleet never expected the new ocean to be so vast. After 98 days at sea, a dozen of sailors had succumbed to scurvy and famine. When they finally reached land again, Enrique, the young slave, proved able to communicate with the natives. Their goal couldn't be far. Sailing farther west, Magellan was warmly received by Ra Humabon of Cebu. The battle in Mactan were all started with Ferdinand Magellan's commanded galleon ship with Voyage on sea expedition from Spain arrived in Cebu. Magellan befriended Ra Humabon, the tribe leader, mingled and made friends with the native locals in the tribe. Magellan was able to convince the tribe community in Cebu for them to be baptized to Christianity, in accords to wishes of Magellan in spreading Christianity in Cebu, as well as in other neighboring islands. Magellan, with that intent, tasked Ra Humabon to convince the two Datu who rule and Red Mactan Island to be baptized to Christianity, and pay their allegiance to King of Spain, but only Datu Zula obeyed the request of Ra Humabon. Chieftain Datu Lapu-Lapu prevails and makes strong stance, refusing to obey Ra Humabon's request. This prompted Ra Humabon to ask Magellan's help to fight against Lapu-Lapu, for a strong defiance to Humabon and Magellan's orders. So when Magellan received a confirmation regarding Datu Lapu-Lapu's refusal to be baptized to Christianity and defiance to pay homage to the King of Spain, This triggered an anger and hatred between Magellan's soldiers and Chieftain Lapu-Lapu's native fighting warriors whose egos were touched. Back part starts a famous battle in Mactan. So when the ruler asked him to help subdue and convert the rebellious chief of Mactan, the captain readily agreed, not knowing the adventure would be his last. Overconfident and severely outnumbered, Magellan's force was overwhelmed, and the native bamboo spears ended the captain's life. Yet the voyage has to continue. Magellan will specify that Enrique should be freed, but the expedition still needed an interpreter. With his freedom at stake,
Enrique is believed to have plotted with Raja to have about 30 of Spaniards killed at the feast on the beach. Enrique was never heard from again, but if he ever made it back to Malacca, he may have the first person to actually circumnavigate the route. Meanwhile, the survivors burned the Conception and proceeded onward. They finally reached the Spice Island in 1521 and loaded up on precious cargo. But they still have to return to Spain. The Trinidad sank shortly after being captured by the Portuguese. The Victoria continued west piloted by Juan Sebastian Elcano. One of the pardoned mutineers against all odds, a small vessel made it up to Spain. The full cargo of the clothes and cinnamon enough to cover the expedition and turn a profit. An obsessive chronicler Pigafetta described the lands and people they encountered. With the help of a humble slave, also compiled the world's first praise book of the native languages. This journal is the reason we can tell the story. Magellan legacy lingers. He had galaxy and space program named after him. Elcano too was celebrated in Spain with a coat of arms in his face on currency and stamps. United by fate, the survivors and the hundred who sacrifices their life challenged conventional wisdom and completed a historic journey once thought impossible.
The significance of studying the Philippine history. We may understand how prior societies, systems, philosophies, governments, cultures, and technology were built, how they function, and how they changed through Philippine history. The Philippines history aids us in painting a clear picture of where we are now. It is critical that we comprehend so that we can pass on our historical knowledge to future generations, allowing many more people to benefit from it because we believe that history was more impact when it connects individuals, events, places, stories, and ideas from past with those who are relevant and valuable to communities, people, and audiences now.
History helps us understand how events in the past shaped the world we live in today. We not only learn about ourselves and how we came to by studying history, but we also develop the ability to avoid mistakes and chart better courses for our communities.
We not only learn about ourselves and how we came to be by studying history, we discover where we went wrong and can correct it so that we can improve or evolve in order to make things better or worse. It has significant impact on our way of life as individuals and Filipino citizens.